Hey guys, thank you for joining us. I'm joined tonight by Matt Grayfair, aka the Young Professor. How you doing, man?
Jamie, I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I appreciate your time. Before obviously I do talk with you, I've always got to do a bit of shilling. So big thank you to our sponsors, Manscaped. Obviously, you want to groom yourself? Go over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code Ringsiders, 20% off. You know what to do. Now I've shilled, dude. Let's talk some wrestling and stuff. I mean, we talked before we hit record, and I'm going to say it again. I love that flag, man.
Thank you. You know what? It actually worked out. We were gonna do this a couple days ago at my house, but you'd think that my domicile would be ready for this sort of thing, but it would have been put together in a whole different way. I'm actually in my real classroom right now, which yes, I have no shame in the game. I've got real flags of my stuff up in the classroom, so you know what? It's all good and well.
Hey, man, come on. You're a teacher. You got to teach these kids about wrestling.
That's
Perfect excuse.
This is the real shirt I wore today. It's a Mr. T WrestleMania shirt. So,
Ah, that may be the best shirt I've ever seen.
it's cool, man. It was, not all these young kids, they don't even know who Mr. T is. I had one kid in my last period about 10 minutes ago go, my dad's a big A-Team fan. Is that Mr. T on your shirt? I was like, yes, finally, someone today.
Give that kid an A, man. Give him an A. Dude, come on, it's the A-Team. I mean, I own the box set. I still watch it now. I'm 37 in a few days. There's nothing better than putting the A-Team on and binging, dude, with a pizza and a few beers.
The 80s were special. That's all I can say. When it came to anything action, like nothing as good as action blockbusters and stuff are now. Like the 80s, all those movies, all those shows. I mean, you really can't beat that.
You can't do. No, I'm with you. The A-Team, Knight Rider, stuff like that, man. It was a special time. It was a special time. I guess, obviously, I mean, I grew up watching the wrestling in the 80s. I mean, are you a fan of the 80s wrestling as well, then?
So I wasn't. I mean, I've had to go back and get familiar with it more now, but I'm a child of the 90s. Like, I'm only a couple of years younger than you. Like, I just turned 35, so the whole young professor thing is getting older by the day. But I figured if Flair can still be the nature boy at 72, I think I can milk this for a couple more years.
I think so.
But no, I didn't watch in the 80s. I didn't really watch it growing up until I was like 11 years old, which was 97. And that's the Attitude Era. And that's when, it kind of captured the hearts and minds of people all over the world in numbers like they'd never seen before. I finally got on the honor roll enough times to get my family some cable TV. That was kind of the deal that we needed to have so that I could actually watch Monday Night Raw and Monday Night Nitro. And so we finally got it, and that's when I started watching it. But I have had to go back because I've had to work some events with some guys from the 80s.
Yep.
A few years ago, I got to co-host over in Jacksonville, Florida, the River City Wrestling Con, and I had to sit and do interviews in a public forum with Jake the Snake Roberts and Ricky Steamboat and Maggie TA and Tully Blanchard. And I knew those guys because I watch enough that I know, but I never really went and followed a lot of it because by the time I watched, they were doing very different things. Jake was still around a little bit, but everybody else had kind of moved on. So I had to really go back and kind of bone up on all of my old 80s wrestling matches and knowledge and all that.
Dude, that's amazing. I mean, God, I mean, I obviously I grew up watching it in the late 80s. So, I mean, Steamboat, Jake, Tully, I mean, they were guys that I still idolize today. And you get to do that. I mean, holy cow, man, that's incredible.
It was, and we're getting ready for the next one, and there's going to be some announcements coming up for my involvement, which I'm really excited about. But some of the guests that we have on this next one, that's going to be in June. It's going to be a 2-day event, June 12th and 13th. It's not as many of the 80s guys; it's a lot of the 90s guys. But we're going to have Mick Foley's going to be there, Kurt Angle's going to be there, Kane is going to be there, Glenn Jacobs.
Wow.
We're going to have Luger. We're going to have Sergeant Slaughter. Both Steiner brothers are set to be there. So there's going to be a lot of big talent coming there as well. And I'm just so grateful that I have somehow found my way to be a part of this in any capacity.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, before we talk wrestling as well, I was doing a bit of research. I know you're also a big boxing guy, an MMA guy. I mean, how did all that come about? Is that something you followed for your whole life?
No, not at all. In fact, I'm not really a big boxing or MMA guy, to be fully honest with you. It came out of the announcing. I started announcing in pro wrestling first, and I've always been a pro wrestling guy. Like Like that's the sport that I have followed since I was, like 10, 11 years old. I didn't grow up in a household where people really followed a whole lot of sports. Even into that, like I like the New York Mets Major League Baseball team, and that's only because my grandfather liked them. That was as close a connection as I had. But when I started announcing and ring announcing in particular, pro wrestling is great, but that skill set lends itself to those other combat sports.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same position. There's slight differences, but I mean slight differences. And so once you get into one, I was like, all right, I can't limit my opportunities. I need to find my way into others. And that has blossomed into some really tremendous opportunities as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, obviously, when did the journey into wrestling begin then?
By accident. I've only been doing it for a couple of years. I've only been doing it for 3 years and change, which is not very long time in terms of just, the number of years that I've been involved in it. But once I got in, I really hit the ground running. I mean, I've hosted over 200 shows at this point over the span of a couple of years, and really kind of made up for any lost time. I mean, working every weekend, multiple times a weekend is really what it's kind of come down to. Even in the midst of everything in this past year, I still found ways to stay busy at places that were still running and still keep my name and face and just brand out there so that I could continue to get opportunities. And it really has helped me a lot. But I was a college professor. That's where the young professor moniker comes from. And I was a professor when I was 25 years old is when I started. And so it's been an interesting journey. And I was a trivia host, and I did that for a couple of years beforehand. And a lot of people would come up to me, in the bars or pubs, as you guys might like to call them, and say, man, you've got this great voice, when you're talking on the microphone. Do you do any sports? Like, everyone was already convinced that it was something I did. And I got tired of telling people I didn't do it. I said, well, all right, well, clearly enough people tell you something, you probably should look into it at the very least and see what it's all about. And there was a wrestling school about 30 miles away here in Florida, and they were looking for a ring announcer. I reached out. They told me to come in, and we were off to the races. They said, keep coming back, and I've been coming back for over 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, it's addictive, isn't it? I mean, I'm a fan, and I'm addicted to the business, so I can imagine you going down there to Florida to this training school. You get the bug, don't you, man?
Definitely. I mean, and in the year leading up to that, like, I realized, especially growing up, I grew up in New Jersey, which, WWE was traveling and WCW was traveling, but it was kind of far away. But here in Florida, especially with the Performance Center being so close, like, I live about an hour and a half away from the Performance Center. I live about an hour away from Jacksonville. So I'm kind of smack in the middle of, like, the big hub of where pro wrestling is anchored here in the United States. And NXT, back when they were still touring, they would do their house shows. I think they would call it the Coconut Loop, they'd call it. But they would hit all these little towns in Florida that are all 30, 40, 60 minutes away from me. And my wife and I, and they're $10 each. They're cheaper than even going to some of the indie shows. I'm surprised any of us indie shows survived in the midst of it. But we were going almost every week, because they were there and we could go, and we get to see Drew McIntyre, we get to see Adam Cole, you get to see Charlotte when she was starting out, and they're right there, and you interact with them live and in person. And so that was going on with me for about a year. So when I got that chance to get in and start working, I mean, even before I did anything noteworthy, it was just as a fan growing up and getting into it, it was a blast, man. It was a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, somebody in the business, how have you found it with the pandemic? I mean, we've said this to a few people. The independents have really, really thrived, and they've kept themselves going. I mean, what have you thought about the indie scene this past year with the pandemic?
I guess I'm glad I live in Florida, because Florida is its own different breed of animal beast. We catch a lot of flack, even nationally here in the United States. Just everybody kind of looks at us and is like, look at Florida, look what they're doing. But at the same time, I make a significant part of my living performing and entertaining my trivia as well. And so that part of it, like last year when this all shut down, because we're just past the 1 year mark, I was supposed to be the MC for the Daytona Tortugas baseball team. It's a minor league baseball. I had 60 paid bookings with them for the year set. Yeah. I had, another season with the Jacksonville Sharks arena football team. I had a bunch of big events lined up for near WrestleMania and other new debuts I was doing with professional wrestling and all of my trivia shows that I do weekly. In one fell swoop, it was gone. 84 bookings I lost in the span of about 2 days. 84 paid bookings, and plus my regular job, I had just started a new business. That folded up and went goodbye. I mean, the whole world changed. And honestly, I was only really out of doing events for about 3 months because Florida is gonna Florida, for lack of a better way to put it. And I know not everybody loves that, or I know I personally have taken as many precautions as I can.
Yeah.
You know, I've got masks that match just about every shirt and outfit, so I've turned it into a thing as part of my presentation and look. I just got the first half of my vaccination because here in Florida, as a teacher, I'm eligible, so I'll be fully vaccinated in a couple weeks. So I've just tried to keep moving and shaking, and thank God I live here in Florida. If I lived in a place like New York or one of these places that were shut completely down, as somebody that's been young in his career and really trying to break through, that loss of opportunity is just time you don't get back. And I've just been grateful to live here and have continued opportunities even in the midst of crazy circumstances.
Yeah, we spoke to Connor from the Ascension last night, and he's in Florida, and he said the same thing. He says, I'm kind of thankful that I'm in Florida. And he pretty much said the same thing you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, well done getting the vaccine. It's a good thing, man. I work at hospital, so I've had mine. I've got my second one next week. It's a good thing. So everyone get your vaccines, all right? But let's talk, dude. Let's talk some Generation Championship Wrestling. I mean,
let's talk about it, man. I'm so excited for this.
April 9th. Tell me about it, dude. Tell me about it.
So, I mean, it's like an event within an event within an event is kind of how it's all shaken out. I mean, we've got stuff going on all day. Generation Championship Wrestling is based here in Florida, our home base. Our last couple of events have been happening in Sanford, Florida, which is just east of Orlando. But we have a big, strong presence in Tampa. And Tampa is where WrestleMania is going to be. And last year, GCW was supposed to have this big event all day and all these names and all this stuff. And of course, that all went goodbye. Well, now that it's coming back and we live here, we are trying it once again. It's taken on a different shape than last year, but I think it's great. And we're doing one solid day at the Egypt Shriners Center. It's a brand new building, brand new facility, massive. We're able to fit a ton of fans and do it safely and have space for everybody to kind of be safe and, you know, take comfort in the fact that they're not going to be stacked in like sardine cans.
Yeah.
But we've got shows running all day long, and that's what's really cool. And we've got a number of different things that people can see throughout the day. Because there are other shows going on in Tampa. I mean, the wrestling world, whoever is going to come, is going to be descending upon this city. I mean, that's kind of what WrestleMania does for any local economy in any state or city that it goes to. We are fortunate enough to be running this. And so being on the inside of Generation Championship Wrestling, we are running our main show with our mainstay talents and the way we've been building that at night. That's our 8 p.m. show.
Yeah.
And that's the official part of We Run This Town. And that's kind of the name of our entire event for the whole day. But we have a number of other events throughout the day, including Medusa and ODB early in the morning, first thing at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, are running Breakfast with Champions.
Wow.
And so they're doing like a meet and greet, and they're actually feeding people because ODB is a food trucker. So like they're actually having breakfast for people. And then 10 o'clock, once your bellies are full, I have been given the opportunity to book and run our GCW Rising show. And our Rising is kind of like our Young Lions type show, where it's not, it's maybe names you haven't heard of yet, but you will be. But we've been lucky enough to get some names that people have heard of or are starting to hear a whole lot more about. And my show is called GCW Rising Best in Class with the Young Professor. So they decided to put my name on it and turn it almost into a school-themed show, which is kind of cool and has a unique feel and just a whole vibe about it that's totally different. And we've got some great talents. I mean, our headline, our main event is going to be Casey Navarro and Leo Rush. And they've had a very spirited rivalry on social media lately.
Yeah, man. I mean, we actually, about a few days ago, a week ago, Leo Rush actually sent us a DM with the promo for the match. So I was going to talk to you about it. I was like, that's one hell of a match, dude. Leo Rush, Casey Navarro. I mean, huge match.
Early in the morning, they're going to mix it up, and we're going to start the day right. I mean, that's what it's about. And I mean, they were looking for a place to throw down, and we said, come on down. Like, you can be at the head of the class for us. And I mean, that's such a great opportunity for our other talent too, because a lot of it is a lot of local talent that people have not necessarily seen a lot of yet, or just in limited spurts. But we've also got some guys coming from other parts of the United States, Texas and in the Northeast. I know we've got an act that I'm pretty excited to see. Viva Las Amish. They've got a real chicken with them. You know, I'm a gimmick guy. I like gimmicky gimmicks, and so that does it for me. We've got another match that I'm so excited for, and actually the stakes just went up for, is Culture Inc., who's a really hot tag team that's on the scene here in Florida, and one of their members, Eli Knight, has even had a stint on 205 Live. They were going to be challenging for our GCW Tag Team Championships that night. Well, a team that they've been trying to have a match with for a long time, that called the Main Event. I don't know if you're familiar with these guys, but it's Ringleader Midas and Blazing J Lion. They're a ringmaster and a lion from the circus. They're incredible. They want to be on the show, and they're actually going to now challenge Culture Inc. for that opportunity. So whoever wins that match is going to go on and face later that night for the Tag Team Championship. So that should be incredible. I mean, that match alone has match of the weekend potential all over, because I've seen these guys. I've worked with all these guys, and I'm telling you, if people aren't talking about them now, they're gonna be when they see this.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm going to be over here in the UK. I mean, tell me where I can watch it.
So it's going to be all streaming on Title Match Wrestling. So if you go to Title Match Wrestling on Facebook, you go there. But Title Match Network hosts a lot of our matches. In fact, one of our matches that we just had, Roxy versus Sky Blue, just dropped on their YouTube channel today. They've got over 1 million subscribers, and they're getting the rest of our matches out this week. But they're going to have, so they have like stuff on their YouTube, but they also have their own website where they host some events exclusively, and we're going to be streaming exclusively on Title Match Network for that show and for our evening show. So we've got 2 spots for people to be, depending on where you are, and that's, we'll have live commentary. Myself and my partner Styx, who we do commentary together all over, are going to be calling that. I'll be hosting and ring announcing it, and then even Layla Gray, who I know since she started in her first match, who's now is blowing up here. She just had a full week in Texas. She's been on AEW Dark 2 weeks in a row. I booked her first. I just want everybody to know.
Get out there.
But she's going to be there. Man, we've got, I'm doing a disservice by not naming all the talent, but it's going to be a hell of a show. And that's just the first show of the day.
I know, and the best thing is, every year I always book the time off from work for WrestleMania. I take a couple of weeks off. So I've done the same this year. I break off the end of next week. So, I've got all these shows to watch. I've got you guys to watch now. Now I know where I can find it. I know you mentioned up-and-coming talent and stuff. And obviously we've spoken to Janai Kai.
Right.
She's on the show as well. That's another girl who I think is going to make a big name for herself soon.
I think so too. Again, we had announced her, and then we saw that she's going to be doing Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which I don't even mind saying that. Like that's a testament to the kind of talent that we're having. If they're getting put on that, then this is where you're going to want to see, because I think everybody is on that same level. That's why we put them here. And Janai Kai is great. I've worked with her since she first started a couple of years ago, and it really feels to me, and I've had a conversation with others about it, like she's this close. To really breaking through, and I think she is going to get seen in a big way this coming WrestleMania weekend. Between the couple different appearances that she has, it's going to be great. She's going up against Killa Kate, who is out of Texas, who I haven't had a chance to work with yet, but she's come very well regarded, very highly recommended, very mat-based, shoot wrestling background, and between her, it's going to be almost like a mixed martial arts fight. You've got the striking black belt judo abilities of Janai Kai, and you've got this ground-based, ground-and-pound mat wrestling style of Killa Kate. I'm really excited to see these 2 ladies throw down.
Yeah, man, I honestly, I'm so excited. Like, obviously, we all look forward to WrestleMania, but like you said, the shows around it are just as exciting. You guys, New Wave Pro are doing great stuff. There's so many companies that the pandemic, I guess, has almost given us the chance to discover a lot of new talent and a lot of new promotions, like yourself, and we're mega excited. We can't wait. We're building up. Like I said, I booked the time off work, and I'm going to binge, all these shows to watch. It's going to be an absolute spectacle, man. It really is. But I mean, before we start to wrap up as well, I mean, what's the plans after Mania weekend? I mean, where we're going after that?
Well, actually, we barely are going to get a chance to sleep at all. We got shows all the way until about 2 a.m. Then we got to break down, get out. And then Matt Morgan, former TNA and WWE superstar Matt Morgan, is a friend of mine, and he is he's a county or city commissioner in the city of Longwood, Florida. And he reached out to me, and the next day he is running a massive charity event in Seminole County in Sanford, where we usually actually run our shows.
Right.
And so we're heading out to do a charity show the next day. We got to pack it all up, go back across the state, set it back up, and do a charity show for an opioid crisis addiction center that's opening up. And all of the money that's being raised there is going to fully pay for the full treatment of 15 of the first people to come to this new place. And it's something that Matt Morgan is very passionate about. He makes no bones about the fact that he's an opioid addict. He's I think 12 years recovered, and it's very near and dear to his heart. And he reached out to me. We've developed a friendship over the years, and so we're happy to go there. And so maybe we'll sleep one of these days. But then we've got shows. I think we're changing some dates around, but we've got more GCW shows in the summer. And I know I'm setting up for, I mentioned River City Wrestling Con for me.
Yeah.
I should be working with the Daytona Tortugas, and there's a few other big announcements I've got coming. So I'm pretty much booked until September, starting this coming Saturday. I'm in Jacksonville, then I'm up at the debut in Georgia, and then it's GCW, and we're off to the races. So
what we're saying is you might get to sleep around October time.
Oh, forget it, man. I got 4 kids and all. I never get to sleep. It's just caffeine and go. That's what it's about every day.
Oh, man. Well, dude, this has been a thrill. Like I say, we love what you guys are doing. We're big. The US Indies, we've just fallen in love with over again. So I'd love it if you want to come back maybe after Mania weekend. We can have a catch up and go through what's happened at Mania weekend, what's coming up again. Do this on a regular basis if that's interesting to you.
Dude, I'm all for it. If you guys want to have me or any other representatives from Generation Championship Wrestling, we are happy to come on. But it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. We'll talk about whatever you want. We'll get it going.
Excellent, dude. Well, as soon as this goes up, we'll let you know, but we'll stay in touch. Like I say, we'll get Mania out the way, dude, and we'll get you back on, and we'll do some more.
That sounds great. Keep up with the good interviews, man. I've been seeing everybody that you're on with. You guys are rocking and rolling there too.
I appreciate that, man. We love it. Like we love what we do. So it's a pleasure, man. But thank you for now, the young professor, Matt Grafer. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.